Falls Board of Education. The meeting has been properly notified, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any visitors or delegations who would like to address the board this evening? All right, then we are going to move into informational items, and the first one is an acknowledgement and a recognition, and I will turn to David.
All right, so please join me in congratulating Lindsay Curtis for achieving Level 1 of the Wisconsin Association School Boards Membership Recognition Program. The program recognizes board members for their efforts in leadership and board development, and board members achieve this status through active attendance and participation in various WASB programs and events. That includes the state convention, serving as a WASB delegate, as well as other meetings and trainings. Thank you, Lindsay, for your leadership and professionalism. We're also excited to recognize Alan for achieving Level 5 of the WASB recognition program. Reaching Level 5 means that Alan has made significant and long-term commitment to his personal development as well as leadership statewide. He's always been very active, but he has taken the next step by being elected and serving as on the WASB Board of Directors. We appreciate his voice and advocacy for River Falls as well as all Wisconsin students. Thank you, Alan.
This evening, I would like to have our new student representatives, people who are going to participate on the board as high school students, to come up to the microphone and introduce yourselves, please.
Hello, my name is Ben Jaco. I'm a RFHS, and I am excited to be here and to learn more about how this works and to offer the insight of students here at the high school. Some things to know about me is I am actively involved in specifically the music area. I love to participate in that stuff. I find myself taking leadership roles and other opportunities within that. And yeah, I enjoy being a student here, enjoy participating in things, and I look forward to representing the students here.
Thank you, Ben.
Hi, my name is Jada Redenzel. I'm a senior at River Falls High School, and some things to know about me. I have 2 jobs outside of high school. I work at Starbucks part-time, and then I also clean Airbnbs in Minnesota. I'm also a part of student council, as well as Wildcat Design, and I'm just really excited to represent our students. And I'm also part of the River Falls soccer team.
Thank you, Jada, and welcome to both of you. We look forward to having your voice on the board and to getting to know you. Now I will turn to the superintendent's report.
Okay, so tonight we're giving a strategic plan scorecard update. So if you were here for the first meeting, you know that we took some time to talk about our strategic plan. And what the scorecard does is the scorecard serves as a way that we track the progress towards the most important elements of our strategic plan. It gives us benchmarks to look towards in the areas of academic growth, student engagement, as well as employee satisfaction. So our goal here is to set stretch targets, push ourselves to reach those targets, and then track progress and adjust our lead measures as necessary. So this might be kind of hard to see. It is online if you click there as well. So the first area is academic achievement, which we call River Falls Learns. And the areas that we're really committed to is making sure that we have academic growth for all students, as well as investing in college and career planning experiences and a system of support that recognizes the needs of every learner. So those are the areas that are outlined. I'm just going to highlight some of the things that are adjustments. So when I talk about adjustments and continuous improvement, we set our scorecard last year. We used that to guide some of our planning. Then we tracked all of that for 1 year, and then over the summer, through administration retreats as well as board retreats, we identified areas where we said, hey, maybe we need to clarify this, maybe we need to make some adjustments, and then we made those adjustments. So the performance indicators haven't changed, but maybe the wording has changed and some clarifications have changed. So I'm just gonna go through what that looks like so everybody's aware of what we changed. So the first thing is we defined target more specifically. We wanted to make sure that everybody understood what we meant when we said this was our target. It reflects our belief that, in this case, all students can learn, they can grow academically at high levels, and we set that to be a challenge and stretch goal so we can influence the identified needs. So it's important to recognize that certain factors affecting the achievement of these targets might be beyond our sphere of influence and may impact their attainment, but that doesn't mean that's not what we're going for. We clarified reading screeners. So as a lot of people here are aware, Act 20 has impacted how we measure literacy growth at the elementary level. And so in 24-25, we had different screeners for K2 and 3-5, and then now moving forward, we'll have the same one for K5. So when you look at that on the scorecard, you're gonna see that disaggregated out in 24-25, but then combined in 25-27. And then the districts to which we compare ourselves to in some of the areas have not changed for this one. So in River Falls Learns, we're looking at districts that are either geographically or demographically close to us, and they're listed there. We also changed the wording of the Meyer Middle School goal, just so it read a little clearer, so I highlighted what that adjustment is. And we also did the same thing with special education, really looking at the interpretation of what it means to be above average and what that means to demonstrate proficiency. And that one changed so much that we decided to adjust the tracking for 24-25. So in other words, we didn't feel like there was enough data there for 24-25, so you're not seeing a data point for that one, but you'll see the one for the next couple of years. Under Learns, there are 3 areas that I just wanted to recognize kind of as celebrations. Our commitment to literacy growth in all areas is something that we're proud of. We see that as a foundational support that can affect achievement in lots of different ways. We saw school report card achievement data that was very competitive, always room for growth, but specifically within the achievement lane, we were really proud of that, as well as overall ACT and AP exam growth. Under River Falls Works, same thing, no dramatic changes to the indicators, but just some adjustments for clarification, so I'll highlight those. We had something that we called job satisfaction, and we didn't really say what the questions we were asking, so we wanted to put those on there, so if somebody came across this, they would know, when we talk about job satisfaction, what questions are we asking? So those are listed there. We also looked at how we interpret when a staff said NA, right? If we had previously counted that as disagree. Now we're just not counting it at all. So we took those numbers out, and then that means we had to recalibrate or adjust what our target was. So that's what that was about. And then the other change here is for within the staffing piece, we adjusted our comparable districts to be regional only, so we added other regional districts. So when we're looking at some of the components within, when we compare ourselves to other employee groups, we're looking at those districts. Couple of celebrations, we were happy with an increase in employee retention. That's always a really good sign. Staff satisfaction feedback and our capital projects progress. The last of our 3 big areas is Connects, and that's really about engagement. And the areas that we adjusted here is we clarified what chronically absent meant and what absence counted and what absence don't count. So that's there. We had a connectedness parent feedback survey, so we identified the 5 questions that are there. Same thing with the interpretation. When a parent said NA, we weren't going to count that against us, but we weren't going to get credit for it either. And so that means we had to adjust what our targets were. We also had something that was more general last year with dual enrollment, and we wanted to be more clear on what some of those things are and kind of disaggregate that number out so people were clear. So dual enrollment is defined as a course in which a student can earn post-secondary credit at a public, private, or technical school. Advanced placement is a college-level course offered in high school by College Board in which they can a student could earn credit by passing a standardized test. And then an industry credential is a credential that's approved by the Department of Instruction and Workforce Development that provides practical job-ready skills to students. We see these all as really things that we should be proud of around Connects. but we didn't want to lump them all together. We wanted to make sure that we were identifying them separately so we could be clear on that. And so that's what we did. Some things that we're proud of there, we did see a decrease in chronic absenteeism, and we saw a slight increase in co-curricular participation. We know, I would say for both of those are tricky. Year over year, some things can happen, and when you have relatively low chronic absenteeism, it's hard sometimes to push across the finish line. It doesn't mean we're not changing. Obviously, we made some changes to our attendance policy in hopes that would address it, but it's just something to keep an eye on. Same thing with co-curricular participation. Really proud of the high level of participation, but at some point you worry year over year if there's slight switches, and that's why we take multiple years when we look at this. The board monitoring calendar is there, just like last year. Each month, our principals of buildings will give reports. In addition to that, our directors will give reports on areas that they're focused on, all pointing back to the strategic plan. So are there any questions on that? All right, so then just a couple other updates that I wanted to highlight. One, I want to thank the Star Observer and Caitlin Doolittle. These are a picture from her and an article that's linked there about a neat opportunity at the school forest for a tree trek. So if you are not familiar with where the school forest is, there's another link there to a virtual hike, which is my favorite kind of hike. You just watch it on the video there. But it's really neat if you haven't been out to the school forest to pop onto that YouTube and see what it has to offer. So we thank Lauren Kaminsky for doing that virtual hike. And then in addition now what we have is a tree trek, and there's 15 different species that you can identify. It gives the common name, the scientific name, and then there's information about the species and the QR code, so you can follow the map of the trek, locate these, and learn more about the different trees. So just another exciting way that we can get people out to the school forest. And this isn't something that you have to be in a class to go do. It's something that's available to everybody. Oh, Amanda, can you stop that? I don't think we need to go on the tour. It's all right. Here we go, we're on the tour. There it is. Now we're off the tour. One thing I want to highlight is that the Rotary and the school district are going to do a pavilion dedication on October 15th, which is a Wednesday at 5 o'clock. This is an opportunity to celebrate the progress that's been made out at the pavilion in conjunction with the Rotary, and as well as other partners, the Kinney River Land Trust, support from River Falls, the city of River Falls, support from the township of River Falls. Lots of people have contributed, even the other landowners in and around there, understanding that there's more activity. So we're really appreciative, and we just want to have a fun way to celebrate that. So that's on the 15th of October. Would love to have as many board members there as possible. And then the next night, on the 16th, they do a candlelight hike through community ed. And so that's another opportunity to be out in and around the school forest and the community forest. Good question. I believe it's at 6 o'clock, but I'll follow up with an email. Yeah. That is my report.
Right.
You have to register for the candlelight thing because it's
Okay.
through community ed. Yep.
All right, we are going to move on in the agenda. And the first items are part of the consent agenda, so I'll remind everyone that we will take a motion in a second. There will be no discussion before we take a vote. If there is something that a board member would like to discuss, please let me know now and we would pull it from the consent agenda. Anything? All right, then what we have before us this evening on the consent agenda would be the meeting minutes from the August 25th meeting. We have bills that have been submitted for payment. We also have employment recommendations. And then we have a series of first readings of policies from the Neola 100 series, which would be the bylaws. The reason that the ad hoc policy committee feels comfortable putting these on the consent agenda is that we have determined that there is no substantial change in these policies compared to our existing policies. So at this point, is there a motion to approve minutes, bills, and employment and Neola policies as presented on the agenda? Thank you, Lindsay. Is there a
Second.
second? Monica. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. All right, then we are going to move on to some additional recommendations from the Policy Ad Hoc Committee. These are policies that the committee discussed individually. Sometimes we discuss them simply for clarification. In some cases, we adjusted language, and in some cases, once we had a discussion, we just left it the way they are. But I'm going to turn to David to walk us through any adjustments on these policies, and then I will take a motion.
All right, so I'm going to attempt to go right in order. So if you're following along, it should just go right in order in your packet. So the first one is policy 0100, which is definitions. I hope, right? That's accurate? Okay, good. We're looking at the right spot. So one thing with this is really designed to be a document or a bylaw that would permeate every single policy throughout the rest of the Neola policy set. So this is kind of our way to our dictionary to look back of what these definitions mean. So as it sits right now, this is where where the definitions are. I suspect over the next 5 or 6 months, we might revisit definitions. So there might be a recommendation from ad hoc, hey, come back, Dave, can you add this to the definitions thing? And every time we do that, we'll just continue to get it approved. So that's why it's there. Are there any questions on that? Okay, then moving on to the next one is name. And that we had some discussion about that. It's only one sentence, and there was no change. Yeah. The next one that I have is board philosophy, which is 0123. And board philosophy is a new policy. And even though it's a new policy, I think it aligned very well to the work that the board already does, and understanding that it has dual responsibility to implement statute as well as representing the public as the school board. So I don't have any adjustments from what was presented. The next one that I have is 0131.1, and that is bylaws and policies. And based on the discussion that happened at our committee meeting, there's just one adjustment. It's in the last paragraph, the second paragraph, last sentence. And the language that was added is be considered at a future school board meeting. And so what this does is, as we all know, it takes 2 readings to make a policy fully approved. And so what this does is it just allows that those 2 readings don't have to be successive. So the previous Neola policy basically said, if you address it in this month, then you have to address it in this month. And we wanted the flexibility not to take it up, but just to clarify, until it's approved twice, it's not a fully approved policy. Any questions on that one? Okay, the next one is judicial. Just some discussion, no change in that one. The next one is 0141.1, student representation at school board meetings. And the adjustment that we made is the original one said 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, and we felt that ideally we want a senior, but we changed the language to just be junior or senior. And just to clarify that it's selected by high school administration. Any questions on that? Okay, the next one is 142.2, and that's qualifications, and there are no changes to that one. The next one is vacancies, 142.5. There are 3 clarifications that came from the policy committee. The first one is on the bottom of page 1, number 1, in which we added that in addition to being published in our newspapers, that we would also publish it or post it on the district website for 2 consecutive weeks. So that's the first one that we clarified. The second one is under number 5. And when we get to interviews for candidates, the last sentence now reads, the school board may ask clarifying follow-up questions of one or more potential appointees. The thing here was we wanted to make sure that we weren't asking fully separate questions or more questions to one candidate to the other. The purpose here is if there was a clarifying question or a follow-up with a candidate, we could do that. But it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have separate sets of questions for these candidates. And the last adjustment that was added was on number 6, that all votes shall be recorded, preserved, and available upon request. Are there any questions on that? Okay. Moving on, the next one is 143.1. And 143.1 is public expression of board members. And so I don't have any adjusted changes. I just wanted to recognize that there's some overlap between another policy that we'll approve tonight, and that's 144.5, school board member behavior, communications, and code of conduct. Just wanted to call that out because that was a part of our discussion on a couple of Mondays ago. So really, this is just to make sure that board members understand when they're expressing themselves publicly that they're clear that in times that they're working as a representative of the board or they're representing themselves. So that's what this policy is about. Are there any questions about that one? Okay. The next one is board information requests. And there are really no adjustments to what was discussed there. Just to clarify, this is, the board has every right of any other citizen to make record requests. In this one, we're basically saying if there was a request related to the board's work, the board may take it up as a discussion before we gather that information. But that excludes small requests for information. And it's as a general rule, if a board member asks for some information that's easily gettable, then we would share that with everybody on the board separately. So that's that one. Any questions on that? Okay, compensation, that's 144.1. Discussion, no changes. Conflict of interest. So this policy is the Neola policy. This is a good example of why we adopted Neola, to make sure that we are in compliance with all of the legal statutes associated with it. As I read it, there's no substantial changes from policy 165, which used to cover conflict of interest, but this is new language, and I'm just calling that out, but the committee didn't have any adjustments. All right, the next one is board member behavior, communications, and code of conduct. No adjustments. This is well aligned to our current expectations and practices. I lied, there is a couple of adjustments. We moved the general expectations of all school board members. We moved up to A, this statement. Remember always that their first and greatest concern must be of the educational welfare of students. That used to be like letter Q, yeah, which seemed kind of low for that. We thought that was pretty powerful, so that was moved up to number 1, or letter A, excuse me. And then the other thing that I would highlight as a change is what is now letter Q. Just clarifying that we're recognizing that the school board service is nonpartisan and that the expectation is they would refrain from using their school board positions for personal partisan gain. So that piece is there. Are there any questions on that? All right. Jada and Ben, you still want to be on the school board? Okay, good. It'll get better, I promise. Okay, the next one is meetings. Meetings is essentially a renumbering. We highlighted this one because our old policy manual had a bunch of different policies that address this, and it all got collapsed into one. So just wanted to make sure that people were aware of it. There's no real number changes, or there's no actual changes. It's just the way that it was numbered. And then in 166 agenda, we had some good discussion and updated the language. It would be the last couple of sentences of the second paragraph, and that just would identify how a school board member could propose items for future meetings, and that can be kind of handled at each of our prior meetings with those suggestions, and sometimes we do that more informally, but if a board member wanted to formally request that, they could formally request that we take a vote to add that to the agenda. So a lot of times now it's more advisory in nature, but if we ever wanted to, if a board member ever wanted to kind of call the question and get it on the next agenda, that would be their opportunity to do that, and that's what's called out in this policy. Questions on that? Voting, 167.1, no changes, just discussion on that one. And then the last one is email, public records. Again, no changes, just discussion by the committee on that.
And we should probably point out, oops, sorry, that's really loud, David, that it seems brief tonight, but if you want to join us the first Monday of the month for the ad hoc committee, you can go over these policies in detail. It's a good time.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, we had fun.
And one more thing, just, so this was pretty heavy in how the board operates, right? And so there are other policy series where we will take up employee issues. There'll be other policy series where we'll talk about actual student-based things. Yeah, so this was the board work.
And again, Dave, maybe you mentioned this and I missed it earlier, but the reason we're going through all these policies is because we've adopted this new software program that's going to better organize them and all that. We may just want to keep mentioning that ongoing. Not that there's any emergency or crisis with our current policy, we're organizing them better and rewording them.
It's a software adjustment, but it's also a support for policy adjustment that we will be receiving from Neola. So thank you, Dave, for going through all of those. The ad hoc committee took their job seriously. We were prepared. We had good discussion. At this point, is there a motion to approve the first reading of all policies in numbers 1 through 17 as presented in the board book?
So moved.
Thank you, Monica. Is there
Second.
a second? Thank you, Allison. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. I will turn to you, Alan, for an update on the Educational Program Committee.
Okay, the Education Program Committee met on Monday, September 15th. None of our items required action, but we had some updates on quite a few important issues. We had an overview of what's going on with Title I and some of the changes that are going on. And do we want to summarize any of that? I'm looking at our co-directors of academic services.
As far as Title I, we made a shift in our delivery from a targeted model to a school-wide model. So now our title services will address all of our students in our elementaries versus the students that are rank ordered and that way.
Okay. Thank you. We also had an update on summer school, and we had a really good discussion. It was a good summer school program, but we talked about the offerings, the programs. We talked about budget. We talked about transportation for summer school, enrollment, and what we're going to do in years going forward. But generally, there have been some really nice adjustments to the summer school program. We had an update on the summer staff curriculum work update, and maybe you guys want to tell us a little bit more about what actually transpired. It was a little different this year. We actually paid some of our faculty to help us with some of the transition curriculum work over the summer, right?
So this year we did Summer Curriculum Academy as an optional for curriculum teams to work. They were able to pick a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, the first 2 weeks of August. Next year that will change. There's one identified date for teams. So it was optional today, and teachers were paid their hourly salary rate. They worked on different parts of the curriculum stages that they'll be continuing to work on throughout the school.
Okay. And then Amy Weiss and Mary Beth Elliott, who are our co-directors of academic services, did a review for us of the academic services goals for 25-26. Other than the fact that they are ambitious, any specific things you want to share with the full board?
I think part of the work that we continue to do, and our kind of mantra has been being consistent when we talk about high-quality teaching and learning that happens in the district, our authentic teacher collaboration, and then guaranteed and viable curriculum that we continue to work on.
Okay. Thank you. Very impressed with what you're laying out for the year going forward. And then we had some discussion about what we want to see on future agendas. There was some discussion during the meeting about gifted and talented programming in the district, and we always have an annual update, and we just added that as a future agenda item, even though it's typically an update at some point. We haven't set a particular month yet that we'll talk about that, but that was one of the items we put on there. The next committee meeting will be Monday, October 13 at 6 o'clock at the district office. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Mike, I will turn to you for an update on finance and facilities.
Okay, thank you. So we also met on September 15th. We just had a couple of items on our agenda. The first was our monthly review of the facilities update that we have going on in the district. The most visible are things we've seen here at the high school with our new multi-purpose space that has been the addition, a two-story addition. We have new tennis courts out back that are now fully functional and in use. The bus garage is the other piece that you would really recognize. We have a new transportation center that is almost done. We're getting close. That center will include repair bays for the bus mechanics to work on, new offices for both our grounds and our transportation folks. We have new offices, restrooms, lunchroom, meetings room. We have a nice facility for them. So if you've ever been to the old bus garage, it was in desperate need of updating. So we've done that for those folks. Just a reminder too, David went through the update on all of that at the annual meeting prior to our meeting here today. There is a open house on November 4th at both of those, at the high school here and over at the transportation center from 5 to 7. As far as the other facility updates, Meyer Middle School, a lot of the things you're going to see at the elementaries and at Meyer Middle School aren't things you're going to necessarily notice as you walk in. A lot of things with the infrastructure, with the mechanicals. We've got a new generator there. We've put new rooftops at Meyer Middle School. Elementaries, we've updated some of the restrooms. New security doors at a couple of them to make them safer. The one thing you'll notice visible at Greenwood is the new soffit. We had an old yellow type soffit that had been there since I think the building was built and was in the 50s, 60s, long time ago. I don't know. I don't know why. Anyway, so that's the one visible thing you'd see at Greenwood. You'd notice if you looked at the soffit. It's a nice new soffit there. And the other item on our agenda was the budget update. July 1st is the start of our new fiscal year, so everything is on track. We went through the different pluses and minuses of the budget, and I know Lynette gave an update on the budget at the annual meeting again prior here. So things are on track with the budget. Lynette, anything you want to add? All right, that's what we had.
So the Personnel Committee met as the third meeting that week on September 15th. We took no action during that meeting, but we focused on a number of information-only items. So first of all, the committee received a final staffing update for 2025-26. While there could always be some staffing adjustments that take place during the academic year, all certified staff positions were filled as we welcome students back, and support staff positions are substantially full now. So that's good news. That's thanks to a lot of hard work on behalf of our administrators. The committee heard a review of the orientation process for new teachers and new paraprofessionals. The feedback from those participants was really very positive. In fact, one of the persons said it was the best orientation session that teacher had ever attended. So that was very nice to read. Nate Sherman provided an update to the committee regarding the district's core mentor program, which is off to a strong start. Nate has also checked in with our new employees, asking how the fall is going, offering appreciation, encouragement, and support. So those are good things for us. Then Nate also updated the committee regarding exit interviews, procedures for staff people as they leave the district. It's his opportunity to be able to discern any themes or things that stand out to him. Nate, do you want to add to anything? Nope? Okay. All right. So that was our meeting.
Could I just,
yes,
could I
please.
1955 Greenwood was built. That would make that soffit 70 years old.
And I wasn't born yet.
Well, I was going to say Allison, how was the grand opening?
I
but
wasn't
okay.
born.
Okay.
Close, close.
All right, we do have one more policy for us to look at tonight. So before the board this evening is the first reading of revised school board policy 870, the rule regarding the public complaint procedure, and I'm going to turn to David.
So the first thing that I'm going to highlight is this is not in step with our Neola work. And so if this were to be approved, this would be the first reading. And if it were to be approved, then for a second reading, it would go into effect immediately. That's different than our Neola work where we're looking more broad at all of the series, and then in one big chunk at the end, we would adopt them. So just, that's why it's in a different section, even though it's policy. These recommendations were provided by legal counsel to clarify the process. And so there are two big spots that I'm just going to read aloud so everybody can see them. The first one is about 5 paragraphs down, and it is that a complaint can only be brought directly to the school board if the complaint is against a member of the school board or the school board as a whole. And then the school board in its sole discretion will decide whether to review any direct complaint that it receives, and if so, the process and timeframes for reviewing the complaint. So that's a clarification that really wasn't in the prior policy. And then in number 3, which outlines essentially step 3 of the formal complaint process, the recommended addition is that the school board in its sole discretion will decide whether to review the complaint, and if so, the appropriate process and timeframes for reviewing the complaint. A request for an appeal and a description of the complaint's desired outcome must be submitted to the school board, and it gives a date, a time frame, which wasn't on the prior one, so no later than 10 working days after the denial of the complaint by the superintendent. Again, this is step 3, so that's assuming that step 2 didn't meet the desire of the complaint. Are there questions on that?
Okay, is there a motion to approve the first reading of revised school board policy 870 rule regarding public complaint procedures? So moved. Thank you, Bo. Is there a second? Thank you, Mike. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, are there any proposed items for future board meeting agendas? Then we are going to schedule the upcoming meetings, and the Policy Ad Hoc Committee will meet Monday, October 6th at 6 o'clock. Finance and Facilities will meet Monday, October 6th at 7 o'clock or immediately following the Ad Hoc Policy Committee. We made a commitment that that would not start any later than 7:30. The Educational Program Committee will meet Monday, October 13th at 6 o'clock. The Personnel Committee will meet Monday, October 13th at 7 o'clock or immediately following the Educational Program Committee. The next regular board meeting will be Monday, October 27th at 6 o'clock. All of those meetings will be held in the district conference room, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.